Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Thanks for coming back to watch the Backwards Cap. That's me, Backwards Cap. I just wanted to give a quick introduction and let you know that this is part 2 of the 3-part series. Talking about my perspectives on Star Wars and all that. So here we go. How the Force all of a sudden just has limits, and the trained wielder becomes tired, exhausted, or drained after, they use the Force. They do something with it, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm too tired. Oh, something happened, and, it leaves them vulnerable or whatever. You saw that with Rey when she gave life to the underground sand snake, or healed it and stuff. So you saw that a little bit. You saw it a little bit with Grogu in the Mandalorian series, which I can understand that because he's a little kid, he's a child, he's just learning. He's learning a lot. He's not able to master things. I guess you could say the same thing about Rey, but that's another issue, because Rey, she should not have had. Okay, she could be powerful in the Force because her parents were a Palpatine. Her dad was a Palpatine, and she was the granddaughter of the Emperor. But what kind of boggles my mind a little bit is how even the Skywalkers and the Skywalkers' children, they were doing little things like, they would be able to move something without thinking about it, but they weren't able to do a mind trick and just all of a sudden know how to do that. Now, did Rey read stories or hear stories about Jedi and stuff? She heard stories about the Millennium Falcon, so maybe that was a thing. But let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think about that. You're gonna get the feeling that I like the Rey series. I'm probably not going to like the new one that's going to be coming out, and that's, again, another discussion for a different day. But, not today. It's not my favorite, so to speak. I like some characters and some of their aspects, but I didn't really like the overall storyline. Now, the most recent trilogy with Rey, Finn, and Poe, they chose to diminish the overall nostalgia of the previous 6 movies, mainly the story of Luke. Luke was depreciated as a hero character. And this was mainly due to the director Rian Johnson. I do not believe he's a fan of Star Wars. I believe he was a director that either Kathleen Kennedy picked up or Lucasfilm picked up. Somebody picked him up along the way and was like, okay, instead of J.J. Abrams doing this, we're going to have Rian Johnson do it. Rian Johnson, if you look back at his movies, he didn't do movies like this. And I'm almost positive that he never will do another one like this again. So it's like, why? Why would you even undertake something like that? If that's not even your genre, if that's not even your forte, stay away from it, especially this. Because there's a lot riding on a story like this. There's a lot riding on a legacy and the overall fan love that you're going to just ruin it. So don't touch it. Rian Johnson, stay away from Star Wars. Not that you'll even listen, because Kathleen Kennedy likes to throw stupid people in there anyway. So, whatever. They obviously, he depreciated the character role of Luke. The one thing is that he also threw in there, which was kind of odd, because he had no clue what the Force was even about, because he's not a fan of Star Wars. Was the exclusivity of being a Jedi. So a Jedi, becoming a Jedi, or even a Force wielder, was a great honor. It was kind of like being accepted into the greatest college in the universe, in the galaxy. And and they made it generic. You know, they made it very generic. You know, that anybody and everybody can use the Force, and anybody and everybody can, you know, learn to be a Jedi, and you don't even have to have training. It's just too easy. You can gain it. Yeah, we saw a little bit with Rey, you know, training and stuff, but you know, it was like she wasn't trained, and especially in the Force Awakens, it was just, you know, and then Finn, you know, Finn being a stormtrooper, he was trained in weaponry and stuff, and you know, different types of combats and things. As a stormtrooper, he was you know, they motivated stormtroopers to become, you know, kind of like Marines, sort of, you know, military. And so, you know, you had that in Finn, which that would have been more of a plausible character to learn this stuff, to absorb it and adapt to it, where Rey, she never even came across that, and she was a scavenger from a very young age. You know, nowhere did you see that she had any combat skills that even, you know, that she even came across for, you know, utilizing, other than, oh, okay, Tito, I'm gonna beat you up if you don't leave this droid alone, you know, kind of thing, you know, whatever. So, you know, you got that somebody like Rey, who was never trained, going up against Kylo Ren, who was in the Jedi. You know, he has the Skywalker line. He has the training of the Jedi Council, or the new Jedi Order, behind him. He had the training from his uncle Luke, who gave him that education to become something great, and he chose to turn away from it. That's his character, but that doesn't make him any less of a vital asset to the Force, that he should just be a little pansy pushover. Anyways, Leia's training. You know, when did she ever learn? There was no, hey, let's go back and let's do some things. You know, maybe have Leia sitting there thinking off, you know, she's reminiscing on the times that her and Luke were training. They give us one very little scene where all of a sudden she just kicks Luke's butt. You know, she just beats him to the ground, and he falls over or something, some stupid. Come on, I mean, seriously, the character of Luke and the character of Leia, and I'm probably going to get some flack from this, but it seemed very feminist. And what I mean by that is that they took the character of Leia, gave her everything that she needed as a character, and elevated her without any kind of, okay, this is the road that you traveled to get here. So they just went and put her up there. And then they took Luke, who was already up here at this elevated level, because he's a man. Oh, we're gonna drop him down. We're gonna lower him down a little bit. You know, and that's the vibe I get from it. You know, you may disagree or agree with me. You know, I don't really care whether you do or not, but leave some comments in there. So I just want to know where the heck that all came from. So that's pretty much my main gripes for the story. There's a couple other little things here and there. I don't have time for all this, as far as to go over every little detail. Yeah, there's, you know, I've heard people in the comments, or, you know, people over on other YouTube channels saying that different figures and stuff that they have little gripes about and stuff. But you know what? I don't open them, so I could care less. I like the majority of how they turn out. I like the majority of what they've done. Some of the older figures, you know, they don't look as characteristically inclined to the actor or the character that they were portraying, so it kind of throws you off a little bit there. But and I've said some of that stuff in my earlier videos, and you can go back and watch them if you want. One of them was about the Basilisk Shan figure, the original one for the vintage collection, and that was kind of one of my gripes a little bit. But moving on, I'm going to do the top 10 things that is the general consensus online for the majority of Star Wars fans. Now, when I read through these, obviously there are some things that I will agree with. There's some things that I'm going to disagree with because I don't technically fall into some of these categories, but I'll just read through them and see what you think about them. And let me get some of my blue milk. Yeah, I'm not going to spill it down my beard, but that's some good stuff. Okay, number 10. And again, these are all from the internet, and the source, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. I'll put it in the descriptions. Is cbr.com/star-wars-annoying. So, number 10. The new canon is not consistent, according to the internet. Okay, so the new canon. One of the selling points of being this new canon was the consistency. That was one of the selling points, and yet there is no consistency to it. Canonizing the sequels, that was regardless of the source. So it was like they didn't care about the source that all this information was coming from. They just up and canonized it. They just took it out of these Legends expanded universe era and just grabbed it here, picked it, cherry picked it, whatever, and they slapped it all together and called it something that they wanted to sell. Well, that was the problem because the consistency wasn't there. Number 9. The fandom, and a lot of you might agree with this, the fandom has become toxic, to say the least. Fans actually sending verbal threats to the actors of the Star Wars characters. Now, come on. I mean, seriously? Really? Has this story taught these individual idiots nothing? I mean, come on. The whole good versus evil, like, unless they, I guess, just want to be part of the Sith. I mean, some people just want to watch the world burn, kind of a thing. So, who knows? Who really stinking knows? But, the mean and nasty bad characters always lose. They always lose. So, I mean, do you really want to be one of those? They might get ahead of the game a little bit, but in this story, all the time, who wins, who triumphs? Good triumphs over evil. That is the main theme. Number 8. Luke Skywalker's lasting legacy has been crapped upon. Now, the funny thing is some of the stuff's going to line up with what I already talked about. So, the Jedi are one of the main storylines in this epic tale. And when Luke was building his Temple of Jedi from literally nothing, because he had nothing to go on, it was exhilarating for the fans. They were enjoying it. They wanted to see more. And it was thriving. That storyline was thriving. Many who read the expanded universe novels held the depiction of what Luke and his lasting legacy would have grown into. And we got none of it. I'm sorry. I'm going to get a little passionate about some of this. Number 7. The actual treatment of Luke Skywalker's character, turning Luke into a coward rather than a hero of great abilities and renown. Luke Skywalker was so renowned that even Rey, who was a scavenger on a distant planet, heard about him. How is that? If he's some chump, washed-up old man that didn't give a crap and he tucked tail and ran across the other end of the galaxy and, oh, I'm going to hide and nobody can find me. Come on, you dork. Stop being crappy writers. Stop being lazy writers. Because this stuff sucks. So, generations of people, of fans, grew up knowing and loving this character. Then all who were in charge allowed this character to be dragged through the streets and publicly humiliated. These are my words. These aren't the internet's words. Obviously, I'm figuratively speaking. And I guarantee you, if Mark Hamill could hear this right now, he would agree with it. Because if anybody knew that character more than George Lucas himself, was that man. And that man hated the script. He hated that role. He hated the fact that they trashed that character. If you agree with me, leave it in the comments. If you don't, leave it in the comments. Number 6. Now this is kind of sad because the treatment of Finn, even though he's a new character to the story from the originals and from the prequels, he's actually a new character, which is very unique because he was a stormtrooper that had possible force abilities, had possible force sensitivity, had the ability to reason and be like, I don't want to be part of that. Okay, so we had a couple of other figures or characters, I guess you could say, that if you remember back in the stories, Biggs Darklighter he was one of Luke Skywalker's, he was Luke Skywalker's best friend when he was back on the farm on Tatooine. Biggs Darklighter was one of the guys that gave his life to the rebellion and ended up losing his life in the Death Star battle in Episode 4. He was he ended up going to the academy, the Imperial Academy, signing up to become technically a TIE pilot. He ended up defecting or backing out of it and joining the rebellion because he was an overall good character. So he left and went to that. To make a long story short, that's one. Wedge Antilles was one, and he kind of did a similar thing. But there was no that we know of, at least that I know of. If you know of any, please leave them in the comments because I would love to know more about that. If you guys know a character other than Finn that was a stormtrooper that defected and became a rebel. Now, the coolest thing is, this character was literally the franchise's biggest asset. They squandered the opportunity to use this character. They squandered it. Like, they took him, they were like, oh, we're going to give him these cool little side things, and how, my stinking goodness, he was the one that started the whole Force Awakens, him and Poe. And yet, what was weird was they took his character and threw him on a back burner somewhere and said, we'll see what we can do with him. Instead of taking that stormtrooper, which was kind of interesting because that would have been the first stormtrooper Jedi, other than some of the legend stories. I have a figure that was from one of the comic books that he was a stormtrooper that he wielded a lightsaber. I mean, as we can see in some of these news stories, people that aren't force sensitive that use the dark saber, or they use lightsabers and they're able to wield them and stuff like that. Now, again, like I said, Finn, stormtroopers, they were trained in a lot of different weaponry, so he could pick up a lightsaber and probably use it just as easily as anyone else. So could he use the Force while using it? Now, that was interesting because sometimes toward the end of that character's plot or his arc, you could see that he was growing. Somehow he was growing, so it was kind of cool. You know, he would have been a cool character. The interesting thing was there was replacement characters for Luke, Han, and R2, but Finn was that wild card. Finn's character, again, was an ex-stormtrooper who defected to the rebels and possibly held the gift of Force sensitivity. Now, this whole crapping on this character was due to Rian Johnson, again, taking this character and literally, not literally, figuratively, flying him right through a supernova. To which in turn ended his trip. They pretty much dusted crops with Finn's character, because that's what he was. Big pile of crop dust. And he wasn't even good enough to be a nerf herder, I guess. Anyways, they even, now this is something from the internet that I guess I don't really think too much about. I'm from a northern state. I don't really, I didn't really grow up with this kind of mindset to think about this, but this is just from the internet's perspective. They even wondered if this had something to do with his ethnic background. You know, the character that John Boyega played. You know, they think that maybe if you look at all the other characters, you know, Poe is a white guy, you know, Rey's a white woman, and you know, all this stuff. So, you know, I don't like to put too much thought into that, but you know, the possibilities out there. So, I don't like to think that the diversity in Star Wars has been drawn to our primitive worldly thinking, I guess, so to speak. But, you know, it still is out there even today. So that's a possibility. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned for the next installment. It's going to be the third one of the 3-part series. Thanks again. Catch you on the next one.